Hi everyone, welcome to Plot Portal. This is my first episode in this new podcast. I've got my little setup, I've got my microphone here, I've got my headphones in. You'll have to bear with me, there might be some teething errors because this is the first time I'm ever filming a podcast. Hopefully it'll be alright and hopefully we'll just keep getting better. So this is Plot Portal and basically I'm going to be delving into different plots. There's going to be facts, plot holes, suggestions, theories, all about TV series, film series, book series that we know and love. For right now, this podcast is just me, but I am hoping that as we keep going, we might be able to get some guests on and have some discussions. I think that would be really fun. So if you found me through TikTok, then you know my love for Harry Potter. So probably doesn't come to much surprise that my first season of Plot Portal is going to be focusing on Harry Potter. And specifically, I'm going to be delving into the HBO Harry Potter TV series that is due to be released around 2025-2026. The exact date is unknown. I personally think it's more likely going to be like early 2026. They've not even started casting. But yeah, so I thought for the first season, I thought I'd have a look at what key plot points are in the books that were missed out in the Harry Potter films that we hope that they include in the series, and that we can have a little delve into how we think they might approach these things, if they will definitely include it. Yeah, just basically really just try and pick out those bits that were missed out in the films that we really want to see in the series. I'll peppered in throughout this season. I'm also going to be doing some videos that give updates on what we've learned about the HBO series, you know, for example, when they start casting, when all of that, I'm going to be doing some episodes on that. However, the information on that isn't very regular. We don't have much on that. It comes in little drips and drabs. So that'll be an episode here and there giving a bit of an update and summary of what we know so far. So there will be one soon going through what we know as of sort of like the start of it all. For episode 1, let's start at the beginning and let's look at Philosopher's Stone. So with the Harry Potter HBO series, we know, unless anything changes, they are planning on doing a season per book. So it looks like the whole series will be about 7 seasons long, with a season dedicated to each book, which completely makes sense because this will hopefully allow them to really cover everything in each of the books, because the films, it's what, like one film that's about 2.5 hours maximum per book. Whereas for a series, if say the episodes are 40 minutes long, say there's 10 episodes in a season. So we have 400 minutes, basically nearly 7 hours that they would have to play with, which is much more time. I mean, even that actually doesn't sound like that much, but I'm sure it will be a lot more to really delve into the book. So they have over doubled. They basically nearly have like 3 times the amount of time to play with to showcase everything in the books. You should think that they should be able to cover most things, especially in the first 3 seasons when they're looking at the first 3 books. They are considerably smaller books compared to the others. As soon as you get to Goblet of Fire, they are massive. So you would hope that for the first 3 books, first 3 seasons, they should be able to pretty much cover everything in the books. Let's start at the beginning and look at Philosopher's Stone and what some of the key plot points and things are that weren't portrayed the same or weren't portrayed at all in the films and that we want them to do in the book. So firstly, sort of looking at that sort of first scene. So Harry Potter, the first film, opens with it being Dumbledore, McGonagall, and then Harry being delivered on the doorstep of the Dursleys. But in the books, there's a whole chapter that is not told from Harry's perspective. It's the I think only bit where it's not told from his perspective, and it basically is like you're a fly on the wall of the Dursleys. I think it's basically meant to be Dumbledore and McGonagall and basically watching the Dursleys, and I wonder if that might be a nice different opening to help make it feel different to the films, because that's the thing, as much as it has to stay true to the books, they don't want to just be a copy and paste of the films, otherwise what's the point of it? So I wonder if they might go a little bit different in the opening, and instead of that first scene being Harry being delivered, it's a bit of a like fly on the wall scene of the Dursleys, showing them being horrible, making it even more apparent to the viewers how horrible they are, showing that. What would be really nice as well is at the start of the book, you see Vernon going to work and he runs into these strangely dressed people. He runs into wizards and they're talking about the Potter boy, Harry. Vernon's like, oh, could that be our Harry? No, I don't even know if that was his name. Maybe it was Harold. There's this whole chapter where it's looking at watching the Dursleys, where there's other wizards. There's literally wizards running around in robes and hats because Voldemort's just been defeated. There's wizards running around the Muggle world talking about it, and it's this really nice like run up, and it gives us a hint of the wizarding world before we actually get told Harry's a wizard, and it's just a really nice opening scene that isn't in the films, and that might be a really nice way to open the series, to make it different, to show like, yeah, following Vernon maybe. That would probably be a good way of doing it. It's starting off from his perspective, him getting up, showing what Petunia and Dudley are like in the house in the morning, him going to work, coming across these wizards that he doesn't obviously know are wizards, them talking about the Potter boy, the rumours going around, the viewer's like, who's this? Who are they talking about? Who are these people? Why are they dressed differently? All of that. It then goes on to Harry being delivered to their doorstep, because in the first chapter as well, there's a scene where Vernon actually speaks to Petunia about it. He brings up the Wizarding World and he brings up Harry, and she hates it. And I think if we were to get a glimpse before we even meet Harry, if we can get a glimpse of almost Petunia's reaction to mention of the Wizarding World, reaction to mention of her sister and of Harry, that would, I think, be a really good way to open the HBO series. So straight away, I think that's one key thing they should do to make it different, is include that first chapter in the book where it's focusing on the Dursleys, giving us a hint of the Wizarding World before we even see Harry, Dumbledore or McGonagall. So basically have us starting from Vernon's point of view, like it is in the books, I think would really work. We're going to fast forward a little bit. So from sort of Harry being dropped off at the Dursleys and all that, that's sort of fairly kept the same. I said the only sort of thing that is different is about the way the Dursleys depicted. Also the whole smeltings thing is missed out in the films. It wasn't actually missed out, it was a deleted scene. They filmed it and they just didn't include it, but you can find that scene online. It is a deleted scene. One of the things that were missed out, or actually it wasn't quite missed out but not explained, and this is something I actually always was a bit confused by until I then looked into it later. So looking at the trip to the zoo, this is only a little difference. There's just a few little differences in Philosopher's Stone, but actually they're quite important together, because with the zoo, I always wondered, like, why did they take Harry with them to the zoo? They don't like Harry, they treat him really badly, yet they take him to the zoo. Like, that's not, in the films, it's like, well, that's completely against what we've learnt about the Dursleys. They're taking him along for a nice day out. Granted, they're still not treating him very nicely, but they're taking him to the zoo. Why? When they've explicitly shown their hatred for him. And in the books, it's explained it's because Harry was meant to go with Mrs. Fig and be babysat and everything, but he couldn't. She wasn't available, so he had to come with them. And that, it's just like a little thing. That's like a tiny detail. But I hope in the HBO series they do include those little explanations. I think that's the key, those explanations that just make it make a little bit more sense. Another thing with the zoo, quickly, is that in the film, the glass reappears and Dudley's trapped in the snake's cage. That doesn't happen in the books. The glass doesn't reappear. So again, that's another just little change, but those little changes all added together, if they make sure they portray them right in the TV series, that is what is going to make the TV series stand out, make it have like a point and make people love it, as if it really does stay true to the book material. And in a similar vein with those little explanations, so when Harry gets the letters from no one, gets the Harry Potter Under the Stairs Privet Drive, that is the reason why he gets the room upstairs. Because I remember when I watched Harry Potter, I thought, why does Harry get suddenly in a bigger room upstairs? We only see it, I think, from Chamber of Secrets. It's like, wait, he's suddenly in a better room. How come? I remember thinking, like, this seems like a kind act for the Dursleys to give him like a bigger, nicer upstairs bedroom. Why has that happened? Why is he suddenly not in his iconic, famous to us Under the Stairs room anymore? And that is explained in the books. It is because of all those letters he's getting, because it was so specifically addressed, they moved him into Dudley's second bedroom. So that bedroom had all his toys and stuff in it, and they basically said to Dudley, that can't be your dumping ground anymore, we're going to put Harry in there, because of the letters. It was because of the letters, because they knew it was in the Wizarding World, they were scared of that, and that is why they put Harry in the second bedroom. I do hope that the TV series keeps in those explanations, and so things just make more sense. It's not as jumpy, because I think that is one thing, the films, because they're so constrained with time, it can feel a bit jumpy sometimes, going from one thing to another. So I hope the series are able to remedy that. So next we have when Hagrid comes to see Harry and to get him, to tell him he's a wizard. So in the films, firstly, Hagrid mistakes Dudley for Harry, whereas that doesn't happen in the books. He immediately knows who Harry is. I know that's only like a small detail, but I actually think it says a lot about Hagrid's character. Like, obviously he would know who Harry is. He delivered him as a baby. Harry's famous in the world, like he would just know. So that's one little detail added into the films that didn't need to be added. It wasn't in the books, and yeah, I hope that HBO don't copy what the films did. Another thing, which is literally tiny, but I know this really annoys a lot of Harry Potter fans, and that is that the birthday cake that Hagrid makes for Harry, in the films, it's spelled wrong. He spells happy birthday wrong, whereas that doesn't happen in the books. He spells it correctly. And again, it's only a little thing, but I think a lot of people don't like the way it's depicting Hagrid. It's showing him as almost being illiterate, unable to spell, making him but that's not the case. So yeah, I hope they make him spell it correctly like he does in the books. But to be honest, I can't imagine the cake looking any differently to how it looks in the films. Like, it's such an iconic cake with the pink and green icing. But anyway, I don't know how they're gonna top that. And then the next thing, which is actually quite a big thing, is Hagrid. So he goes and gets Harry on his birthday, takes him to Diagon Alley that night / the next day. And then as soon as they've gone to Diagon Alley, Hagrid takes him straight to King's Cross, drops him off there, ready for him to go straight to Hogwarts. But that is the 1st of August. Hogwarts term doesn't start until the 1st of September. So according to the film's timelines, Harry gets to Hogwarts a month early, which is just incorrect. We know the Hogwarts Express leaves on the 1st of September. That is fact. We know that. So that is just complete inaccuracy on the film's part. They've just jumped straight from his birthday and made it seem like Hagrid then takes him straight to King's Cross to go to Hogwarts. Whereas in the books, what actually happens is Hagrid gets Harry, does take him to Diagon Alley then and there, but then he drops him back to the Dursleys, and Harry has to spend the rest of the summer at the Dursleys. He has to spend another month there before then going to Hogwarts, and it's explained the excitement, how they're all scared of him because he's about to go to a wizarding school. And then it is the Dursleys themselves who take Harry to King's Cross. Now, Harry has to be nice and convince him to go, and they take him. They take him and then they laugh at him because they see the platform, realise the platform doesn't exist on 3/4. They laugh and just leave him there. Like, that is actually quite a big bit that's just completely changed. And yet it's just suddenly basically made to seem like Harry goes to Hogwarts a month too soon. That's something that I hope the HBO series does right and explains that properly, make sure there's no inconsistencies or inaccuracies in the timeline. Another detail actually that is changed in the films is regarding Quirrell. So sorry, gonna go back a little bit. So when Harry is in Diagon Alley with Hagrid and he meets Professor Quirrell, in the books it's described that Quirrell doesn't have his turban on yet, so he therefore doesn't have Voldemort possessing him at that time. Basically, it seems that Voldemort decided to possess Quirrell when he failed to retrieve the stone. He was like, right, I think there's like a clip as well that shows it, and it's him like, right, I'm gonna have to keep a better eye on you then because you failed. And from then on, he possesses him. But in the films, it's depicted that as soon as Harry meets Quirrell, he has that turban on, acting like he has Voldemort in him already, and he doesn't. So that's, again, a bit of an inaccuracy. And I actually think it'd be quite good to see almost what Quirrell was like before Voldemort possessed him. Quirrell was still sort of ruined by that point because he was being completely controlled by Voldemort, but he wasn't possessed by him at that point. But the films made it out like he was. That's another, I say it's a little change, that is actually quite a big change and actually could lead to some plot holes. I hope that they stay true to the book for that in the HBO series. Also in Ollivanders, Harry tries many more than just 3 wands to get the right one, like loads and loads and loads. I can imagine right now in the series like a montage of him trying like hundreds of different wands and like the boxes being discarded. I could just imagine that as a montage. Another detail is on the Hogwarts Express when Ron and Harry have chocolate frogs. They have Dumbledore's chocolate frog card. That's in the films. However, what's actually in the books is through the chocolate frog card that they find out about Nicholas Flamel. It shows them on the Hogwarts Express, they read out the back, and Nicholas Flamel is on the card saying he's known for what is achieved with Nicholas Flamel. It's nothing obviously known about who he is at that point, but then later on, they're like, I think Harry gets another card and he's like, oh my God, there's Nicholas Flamel, now I know who he is. So they find out who he is through the chocolate frog card, not through randomly, oh, I bought this out for light reading. Nothing about that, which isn't really that impactful, really. It's just Hermione reading a book. Whereas the chocolate frog card, it's quite fun. It adds a bit more meaning to the chocolate frog cards. And I much prefer that sort of discovery through that way rather than just through a book. So I hope they keep true to that in the HBO series. The Sorting Hat song, when they get to Hogwarts, there's a sorting ceremony. Sorting Hat has a massive song it sings. It's quite a fun one. It's quite nice. It's all written out in the books. And I really hope they include it. Don't get me wrong, I don't want the HBO series to be a musical, so I hope there's not loads of singing, but I do hope they include the Sorting Hat song, because it's quite a nice one, and it actually explains more about the different houses, because it's explained a bit in the films, but it's not actually explained that much, especially in the first one. It's really not explained what each of the houses mean. You're just sort of assumed to infer it. I don't think at any point they actually explain this is what each of the houses are. You just know Gryffindors are brave, Slytherins are bad. That's basically all you get told. Whereas in the books, it's really well explained, and the song explains it for you. It does that job. So that would be really good in the HBO series if they include that, or at least include more of an explanation on the houses and each of their traits. Now I'm just going to have a look at some characters that aren't in the films, that are in the books. One of the biggest main characters to be omitted from all of the films is Peeves. He's a massive part, especially of Philosopher's Stone, and is quite key to a few plot points and a few sort of things that happen, and he's just completely omitted. Now, you might already know this, but if not, here's a little fun fact. They did cast and film scenes with Peeves. It was Rick Mayall was cast as Peeves. He filmed scenes as Peeves, but they cut them all out. Those clips, as far as I'm aware, have not been released. I've never seen them before. I presume it's because he's a poltergeist, he's a ghost, it requires a lot of editing. And I'm guessing it was before that editing process they decided that they weren't going to use them. So they couldn't really release the clips because as he's a ghost, like Rick Mayall probably filmed them all by himself in a room and it would be edited in after, so there probably isn't really anything to show or anything that would make sense. I'd still personally love to see those clips, but anyway, that's a story for another day. But yeah, Peeves, the poltergeist, who would get up to loads of mischief. You know, him and Filch had this hatred. They would cause absolute mayhem for each other. Filch would be running around the castle after Peeves. So many plot points in Philosopher's Stone where the Golden Trio are trying to hide and then Peeves is like, you know, gives them away, or they have, actually the whole reason they find Fluffy is because of Peeves, because they're out late and they're trying to get back to their room and then Peeves is like very near, so they have to run and they hide in a room in order to get away from Peeves, and in that room is where Fluffy is. So Peeves is literally the reason for them finding Fluffy, but obviously they managed to do it in a different way. They did the staircases moving wrongly and them not really all of that for the films. But Peeves is a key plot point, and that is actually one, if they don't include that in the HBO series, and honestly, I don't know what the point in the series is, if they're gonna do the same as the film there and miss out a major character, like, yeah, I wouldn't see what the point in the series is if they miss out Peeves. Professor Binns as well, he's completely missed out in the books, and he actually also is quite pivotal because going on to Chamber of Secrets, obviously we'll do a whole nother like episode on that, but Chamber of Secrets, it's Professor Binns who tells them about the Chamber of Secrets and not McGonagall. And I actually think it's quite nice, like there's a little bit of a story about how, you know, Professor Binns was just teaching one day, went to the staff room, fell asleep, got up, left his body behind. Like, it's quite nice, it adds a little bit of dimension to the characters, to the films and to the books and everything. So that's another character. Professor Binns, I really hope they do include as well. I'm gonna leave that there and call that part one of the Philosopher's Stone sort of deep dive for what we hope they include in the HBO series, because there is still a lot more to go through. I'm conscious about making these manageable to go through, because if I went through them all now, this episode would probably be like nearly an hour long. So I'm gonna pause that there. I will be doing a second part, so make sure that you are subscribed so that you don't miss the second part. Let me know anything you think I missed there, because that was basically everything for like the first part of the film. Now I'm going to go on to the bits that are like really in Hogwarts, those major key points later on in the books. If there's anything you think I've missed out from those early parts of the book, let me know in the comments. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you stay tuned for part 2 of the Philosopher's Stone deep dive.